excited. Well, I'll kick us off and we can start with this webinar. We're so excited to have so many of you joining on, and I'm sure we'll get a couple more in the next couple of minutes. But welcome to Redefining Value, the sponsorship potential of multi-use venues. I'm Laura Nichols, a marketing coordinator here at Sponsor CX, and I'm so excited. Today is the first webinar of the relaunch of our webinar series, where we bring sponsorship pros to come and talk about different areas in the industry. And I'm so looking forward to having Ryan and Jason here with us in this conversation. Just a heads up, we do have a webinar series, so we'll have our next webinar in August. It's every other month. After the webinar, I'll send out some information about that as well. We're really excited to keep the conversation going about how we can continue to grow the sponsorship industry. Just a few notes about this webinar. It is being recorded, and I'll send out the recording to all those who have registered. So if you're not able to stay the whole time, we totally understand. It's busy during the workday. I'll send out that recording just this afternoon. So you'll get it as soon as possible, and it'll also be on our website and on YouTube. After the discussion between Jason and Ryan, we'll have a little Q&A portion. Feel free to add questions as well throughout the conversation. Maybe they'll add them in. It's ideal if you go to that Q&A section just on the bottom of your Zoom and type in the question. That'll be the best place for them to see your questions. So it's my pleasure to be able to welcome Ryan to our Sponsor CX webinar and introduce him. Then I'll introduce Jason. But Ryan is a passionate and accomplished industry leader with diverse experience via Mohegan Sun, Octagon Sports and Entertainment, WEEI Sports Radio Network, and several other highly regarded organizations in sports and entertainment. In his current role as Director of Corporate Partnerships with Mohegan Sun, Ryan leads a team of 4 in managing a list of 50 plus marketing and hospitality clients across one of the largest multi-use facilities in the country. The property features a 10,000-seat arena, a 1,600-room hotel, the largest expo and convention space between New York and Boston, and one of the largest casinos by volume in the world. His team has nearly doubled their existing client list while tripling revenue since his day of hire 7 years ago. Ryan received a sports management degree from the University of Massachusetts Amherst in 2012, and he's an avid New England sports fan residing in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, with his wife Jess, daughter Rowan, and dog Ron. We're so excited to have Ryan part of this discussion. And moderating the conversation will be Jason, the CEO and founder here at Sponsor CX, bringing nearly 20 years of experience in the sponsorship industry. He began his career with the Utah Jazz after graduating from BYU, where he discovered his passion for sports marketing. He later served as Associate GM and Director of Sales for the BYU IMG Sports Network, helping grow sponsorship revenue from under 1 million to nearly 10 million. He later transitioned to the brand side of business, serving as Vice President of Corporate Sponsorships and Events at Mountain America Credit Union, where he managed a high portfolio sponsorship portfolio. Sorry, said portfolio twice, and negotiated multi-million dollar partnerships and naming rights deals with properties across multiple states. Jason founded Sponsor CX in 2021 with a mission to bring efficiency, transparency, and collaboration to the sponsorship process. Today, the platform is used by both properties and brands to manage inventory, fulfillment, creative approvals, proof of performance, and stakeholder communication all in one place. He is a passionate believer in the power of sponsorship to create community impact and has helped raise millions of dollars for nonprofits and charitable initiatives. He lives in American Fork, Utah with his wife Mackenzie and their 4 children, Grace, Emery, Sam, and Thomas. I'm so looking forward to this conversation, as I'm sure many of you are. So I'm just going to turn the time over to Jason and Ryan. Thanks for joining today, you guys.
Thanks, Laura. And man, she made us sound more important than we really are, actually.
I was thinking the same thing.
That was awesome. Laura is an all-star here at Sponsor CX. She's so awesome. But Ryan, thanks for making time to just sit down. And those who haven't joined our webinars before, I like to make these pretty casual. I actually am hoping to get the podcast up and going again too. I co-hosted a podcast called Sponsor Talk. I actually love having these kind of conversations where we can just talk shop, talk about your career and kind of what industry professionals do. So anyway, thanks for coming on. Why don't you just start off by telling us a little bit about your current role here? I know Laura just outlined a little bit about your career and what you've done there, but at Mohegan Sun, yeah, just tell us about your role and what you do day to day with your team.
Yeah, I mean, first off, thank you guys for having me. Honored to be here. I gave Sponsor Talk a listen actually the last couple of days on my commute home. Awesome content there, and
Thank you.
people that are much more decorated and well seasoned than me in the industry. So, just excited to be here and speak to my experience. But I've spent 7 years here at Mohegan Sun. It has been a whirlwind. It feels like 7 months, which is crazy. But huge property that is really a one of one in the landscape. And for anyone on that's not familiar with our property, so we refer to ourselves as an integrated entertainment resort. We're in a tiny corner in the southeastern portion of Connecticut in an even tinier town called Uncasville.
I've been
But
there. It's a little bit hard to get to, but it's
it
awesome.
is, yeah. And
Beautiful. It's beautiful.
you come in and you drive through the woods, and Mohegan Sun just kind of
Yeah,
sprawls out like a little city in the middle of the woods. It's an
amazing.
incredible experience for anyone who hasn't been here. But we're pretty much middle ground between New York and Boston. And like Laura spoke to, we've got a 10,000 seat arena on site, which houses WNBA team, the Connecticut Sun, but also plays host to about 80 high profile concerts and arena shows per year. We've had Billy Joel in this year, Bruce Springsteen. We just had Megan Maroney in last weekend, who was a sellout, an awesome show for any country fans on. We have one of the largest sports books in New England in partnership with FanDuel. As Laura said again, the largest expo space between New York and Boston that plays host to upward of 100 public and private events annually. So huge sprawl here. We've got 2 hotel towers with 1,600 rooms total, 2 casino gaming floors. So it's really, for anyone who hasn't been here, it's a beast of a property, and very intimidating at the start to wrap your head around it from a sponsorship perspective. But I think over the course of 7 years, we've found ways to simplify our process and to really streamline our message to new potential partners and current partners in a way that has worked really well for us. So I'm excited to talk about that today.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been there and it's amazing. It's such a cool facility. And there's just so much to do. You can spend weeks there and maybe not get to all of it. It's pretty wild. But and we framed this webinar around kind of that multi-use facility buzzword, right? Of all these different opportunities, and you got a WNBA team, casinos, all the things you mentioned there. Obviously, we're going to talk sponsorship today. So, I mean, how does that complicate the process, or what does that look like when a brand wants to be involved in a multi-use facility like this? How do you craft uh, a sponsorship that's going to be meaningful in a multi-use facility like Mohegan Sun?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost for us, when you operate a property of this size, you really want to simplify the learning curve for someone who's not as familiar with your brand or your property
It
as
could be
as you
overwhelming.
are.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And-
And it certainly was for me from a sales perspective when I started. It took a little bit to find my voice and really find a way to share who we are in a way that's not going to overload a
Yeah.
potential client. But end of the day, I think getting them in to see this property is the easiest first step, because there's always that funny, eye-popping moment that they don't expect to see a property like this where we are.
Yeah.
And the property sells itself better than I ever could. So getting potential sponsors on site is always a big push for me. And then we really just try to streamline who we are in kind of easy to consume ways. You see our arena lineup, it speaks for itself. The success of our WNBA team, especially in the last 5-10 years, speaks for itself. We're really a hub for women's basketball here in Connecticut. We take a lot of pride in the sport here, and the WNBA team does as well. And just our facilities as a whole, they get rave reviews from all of our guests. And again, we try to speak to the quality of our product and the quality of the people here. We have about 5,500 employees across our entire property. Our property welcomes in 7 million plus people a year. And we always try to use kind of easy points of comparison.
Yeah.
That's more than Fenway Park, TD Garden. It's more than MSG.
I was going to say, you start making comparisons to some of the huge brand names out there.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, when you pull in more in attendance on an annual basis than Yankee Stadium, like we're a beast of property when it comes to foot traffic, and it's because we're 24/7, 365.
Well, and I think that's actually a good point even to recognize here is these multi-use facilities. So many people are coming through. That's like a data point to really like show
Yeah.
off, right? It's like start to compare it to, Boston Red Sox or the New York Yankees or whoever it may be, Yukon Huskies, right? Whatever it is, like, hey,
Yep.
here's the kind of eyeballs that you're going to get coming through our kind of facility. So that's awesome. It's great.
Yeah. So as far as my voice goes in kind of initial conversations with potential clients, we try to keep it simple and provide a 30,000 foot view. But then we also, I always try to preach being the best listener in the room when talking to a potential client.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I've learned here is that there's an opportunity for everyone at a property of this size and scope. So it's really not trying to jam opportunities down their throat. It's sitting back, listening to what's important to them, and trying to steer the conversation in a direction that's going to provide value to their business. Because there's so many opportunities here that there really is something for everyone.
Yeah, that's the right way to go about it for sure. And when it comes to brands, if there's people on this call that are like, what kind of brands should we be talking to that are interested in this kind of facility to be involved in? What are the brands that you guys have targeted that have been like good fits?
Yeah, I mean, from the top down, from like a property-wide partnership perspective, we've really tried to target brands that can take on a relationship of that scope. So we work at a high level with obviously the Coca-Colas of the world from like a property pouring rights perspective. They really have the ability to showcase their entire portfolio in different areas of the property.
Yeah.
We also work with Yale New Haven Health, who's the biggest healthcare provider in the state of Connecticut. And again, that's a cross-property relationship that includes healthcare for our employees, healthcare for our WNBA team, the belly jersey patch, which is the marquee jersey position for our WNBA team, signage and activation throughout property, small ties to some of the family fun events we do throughout the year. It gives them the scope to really showcase everything near and dear to them from an organizational standpoint. We do a lot in the community with them. So brands that have kind of the robust resources to lean in from a property perspective, we certainly have those conversations, and we do operate at the highest level from a sponsorship perspective. But we also we really try not to discriminate in our conversations. We have partnerships that come in from a low-level trade perspective that we do a barbecue fest outside every summer that welcomes in a few thousand people, and we'll work with, grill brands who just trade us a couple grills to give away for a booth space at the event. We negotiate those deals as well, and everything in between. We work with local auto partners to do displays on our concourse. We work with business to business brands who want to use us for hospitality and meeting space. So there's no conversation that we won't approach and try to find a footpath to building a relationship. And it really does. When I started here, it was incredibly intimidating to think, how am I going to package up this property and take it to brands and get them to partner across a beast of an entertainment venue. But when you understand there's something for every brand here, and you just got to listen and really adapt to the conversation accordingly, it becomes a very easy property to sell from that perspective.
I love how you casually just said that we have a couple 100,000 people come to a barbecue. That's awesome. That's
Well,
great.
no, a few thousand come to that
Oh, okay. I thought
barbecue.
you said a few 100,000. Okay.
No, no, no,
I was like,
no.
oh my gosh, that's so many.
I know.
That's a lot of brisket. Yeah, so a couple 100,000. Um, Also, how do you help these brands measure that success? Like what are some of the key metrics that you guys use?
Yeah, so we try to use all the resources at our disposal internally to create our own tools of measurement. So we have a pretty robust marketing analysis team internally. We have a purchasing team internally that, especially with like our pouring rights relationship, it's a nice indicator of volumes and sales related rebates we get from a partner like Coca-Cola. We have a robust events team that helps us with all the analytics and marketing exposure of each of our individual events. Our WNBA team has a business office that's grown threefold since I've been here, so we can really lean on them
Yep.
to collaborate around our WNBA partnerships. But then we try to use our external resources as much as we can too. Obviously, an organization of this size, we have relationships with Scout Sports and Entertainment up through Horizon Media Company, who manages our partnership with our external sponsorship with the New York Yankees and the Boston Celtics. So we try to use those as reference points for how we evaluate a lot of our sponsorship assets as well. But really, an organization of this size, the best thing you can do is build relationships with everyone you can internally, because at the end of the day, any good partnership, it really takes on a life well beyond any kind of sponsorship team or sponsorship department. Our long-term relationships, they touch so many people in this organization beyond me, that if you don't have that collaborative relationship internally and externally, you're not going to retain that partnership or allow it to grow as much as it could otherwise.
Yeah, it's not earth-shattering, but relationships matter more than more than anything. And
Save
and
me the
and all
mouthful.
that, right? You know, take that away. That's what you learned today. No, and I also think where you guys start too is the foundation of, working with brands is at the foundational level is brands that you would want to work with as an organization, right? Like ones that you would spend money with, like Coca-Cola, right? And some of those
Yeah.
others. And you find those as your first foundational sponsors. And then outside of that, you can look at, brands that are just looking for specific eyeballs in the region or whatever demographic that they're looking for that the Mohegan Sun can help them capitalize on. But love that. And then just listen to them, right? As you mentioned, listening to what their needs are, because even how one brand measures something might be different than how another brand wants to measure it as well. And it could be big brand, it could be actionable marketing assets and looking at promo codes and how things are done, or it could be media, right? Or it could be community involvement, right? It could be the barbecue cookout, with we're gonna say 200,000 people at the barbecue cookout. Um, but yeah, I have another question I wanted to make sure I get to here too. And before I ask this, those on the webinar here, feel free, as Laura mentioned on below, you can go to the Q&A and submit your questions. I want to make sure we leave time for that. I usually try and keep these webinars around 40 minutes. We're about 20 minutes in right now, and I want to make sure we get to your questions as well too. So feel free to submit those questions here. But um, Ryan, what have been some shifts that you've, like, from a sponsorship expectation standpoint that you've seen, over the past year, 18 months or so that you're just seeing in the industry of like what brands are expecting?
I mean, I do think through COVID and kind of the shift that created
Sure.
from a macro perspective in the
Yeah.
environment, it's created a ton of change in every industry. I think from a sponsorship specific perspective, brands are just more keyed in than ever on uh, really measuring the success of a partnership. And sometimes that's through ROI, and sometimes that's through some of the other factors you mentioned, community, or the benefits received in hospitality, et cetera. But I think brands are just much more focused on how do we measure the success of this relationship. And at the end of the day, even if you have a great relationship with a really high level decision maker, if your relationship evolves to a level where it's big enough, there's always other factors internally that they need to go back and justify an investment or justify a relationship. And again, we try to be good listeners and understanding what those KPIs are for each individual partner,
Yep.
and providing them the resources back to justify the relationship with us to their broader team. We also try to be as inclusive as possible across our partnerships. So if we do start a relationship that's specifically tied to signage or something hyper specific on the marketing side, we're always trying to grow that relationship beyond that. So how do we get more of their team in to enjoy the property from a hospitality perspective?
Yep.
How do we get more of our team and their team involved in a community initiative? Anything you can do to really plant a seed and grow roots in a partnership, it's always a huge long-term benefit for us and the relationship if you can do that, because it just allows everyone to realize the relationship is a lot more than whether it's a sign in the arena or a line item in a budget on their end. It allows them to really see how deep the relationship goes in a way that they wouldn't otherwise.
Awesome. Well, the questions are rolling in, Ryan, for
Oh,
you.
I love it.
So I'm gonna start with some of those. I want to make sure we get to
Yeah.
these, and feel free to keep them coming, guys. And we'll get to as many as we can. Amber just sent me a note here, not really a question, but maybe you can just speak onto it, Ryan. She says, we're just getting built and need guidance on how to get the right internal contact to the large corporations. Or maybe I'll just add the question there of like, how would you kind of go about doing that with somebody just getting started?
Yeah. Well, I would just start by saying there's definitely no cheat code. Uh, every relationship we have here is, I like to say, its own unique snowflake, and we approach every conversation
Yeah,
differently.
yeah,
But with a property of this size, we try to utilize our relationships internally to positively impact our relationships externally. So we have a good relationship with like Comcast Xfinity here. Our IT team does as well. We try to use their foothold from a service perspective with Comcast to point us in the right direction with some of the higher ups in that organization. We've done the same with Yale New Haven Health, Coca-Cola through our food and beverage and purchasing team, who have awesome relationships and have for a long time with that brand. So it really depends on the brand. If there's a foothold internally or a long-term relationship internally through another department, we always try to build through that first, because there's nothing that can really make up for the fact that, I'll use our director of purchasing has been here. He's a day one employee, been with Mohegan for 20 plus years. He's worked
wow,
with Coca-Cola that whole time. There's nothing I could say cold to Coca-Cola that's ever going to make up for that relationship.
sure.
Much
Relationships matter
easier.
again, everybody. Relationships matter.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
but nothing that's ever going to make up for the relationship that he has. So at the end of the day, I just want to layer onto that and be a small piece to a larger conversation. And when we reach out completely cold, again, our first ask is always, let's host you for lunch on property, or host you virtually and give you some background on who we are and learn more about who you are. But end of the day, it's really just using best judgment to realize what the best point of entry is in each conversation, and trying to build in an intuitive and organic way.
I've got a question about one of the nicest people I know in the world, from Darla with PRCA. She's amazing. And she asked, have you created assets to meet the needs of brands that maybe you hadn't previously thought of?
100%. We all, again, like, it's part of being a good listener as a partner. We don't have all the answers. And especially when you work with, the Anheuser-Busch's and the Coca-Colas and the Red Bulls and even Yale New Haven Health, who's an $8 billion healthcare provider, like, they have experience that's worth listening to. And if they have ideas that we haven't executed before, we take a lot of pride in our execution here and our experience. But by no means have we done it all here.
Yeah,
So when you have brands that come to the table that have executed at the highest level, nationally and internationally from a marketing perspective, we always try to be listeners, and we're always open to trying new things. Especially, that's where a lot of the wins are outside of the dollars and cents on paper in a partnership, is really jumping into the pool and trying new things, that are going to impact the perception of our brand positively and impact the client.
yeah. One of the greatest things is taking an idea and ideating on it, and then using the assets, excuse me, across the facility to really make sure that you're able to move it forward. I think that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
would say too, like, you
Yeah,
can buy signage and, email banner ads and social posts through pretty much any organization. If you're going to do something custom with a client and really jump in
yeah, yeah,
together on a project,
yeah,
there's nothing that builds more trust than that.
yeah,
Is when someone knows they can rely on you, to do things together that are going to impact both sides positively.
yeah. And as you listen to them, as you mentioned, listening to what their needs are, and then they're busy. Brands are busy. Come up with something
Yeah.
really engaging, to help solve those things. We when I was at Mountain America Credit Union, we wanted to drive more products per household, and more checking accounts. And we partnered with the Utah Jazz on this, and we were like, hey, how do we want to drive more? We wanted some more actionable marketing, so we could actually tie in and say, hey, this actually attributed to more checking accounts, or more products per household. And we created a whole campaign around jersey, replica jerseys. You open up a new checking account, or or do a new loan, and they come into the branch and want to do that, and they see all the media that was around it, around get your free replica jersey when that happens. I mean, that's not an inventory item on your checklist, right?
Right.
It's a series of those that make up this opportunity to help drive, business. And then we could calculate back, like, hey, in a 4-week period, we generated, 1,000 new checking accounts from this, right? And so it's doing those types of things that really help. Cool. I've got another one here. I'm currently working with a municipality that is getting ready to open up a multi-use facility, mostly a dedicated cross-country course venue, but will be open to the public for access when not programmed for major NCAA, USA, track and field, other events. When you don't have the data on usage of a facility outside of the events that are projected, how would you value what a naming right sponsorship could be for a facility like that?
Yeah. I mean, the nice thing for us as a property is we do have a lot of that research, but
Yeah,
I would say too, like, even post COVID, we didn't know what our foot traffic was going to be like, as I'm sure 95% of other properties dealt with the same kind of fear.
Yeah,
And at the end of the day, you just try to use, again, all the resources at your disposal to try to craft data for potential clients that tells a story uh, and meets their needs. So, especially with a brand new facility, I would say just lean on uh, the team that's attempting to get it off the ground to try to patchwork that together. And we always try to use points of comparison regionally, nationally, and internationally to try to drive reference for our property
that's a
with how
great way to.
unique we
Yeah,
are.
yeah.
And I don't know if this fits for the person who asked the question, but we operate the largest entertainment resort in Canada as well, Fallsview and Casino Niagara. We're on calls monthly with them just to try to means test our approach to partnerships here regionally and nationally, and make sure we're in tune with um, their data, their rates, uh, and kind of industry standard practices that apply to both properties. We operate a fairly big property in Pennsylvania as well. We try to use them as a reference. Um, so I would say, even being a brand new property, there's always points of comparison you can utilize as a reference, and enough resources internally to use to kind of project where you guys are headed as a venue.
That's great. And then take that data and become a really good storyteller at that point.
Yeah, a
Be,
hundred
be a
percent.
really good storyteller with finding all the different comparable data and then tell a really great story
Yep.
around being the first and helping the community, right? And doing some of those. Love that. Jim Andrews, how we doing, Jim? Thanks for coming. He says, Ryan, do you usually start a conversation with a prospect by talking about all of the different aspects of Mohegan Sun, or do you go in with a targeted idea tied to, say, the convention center, WMBA team, etc.?
I usually start 30,000 foot view and with a broad view of who we are as an organization. And then I really try to key in on who that organization is and what their goals are before I ever try to steer a conversation towards a specific idea. Because again, at the end of the day, it's easier to let a potential client build the proposal for you in a way. Um, like, we have enough assets here to craft a custom proposal for anyone. I'm fully confident in that at this point. Where if we just take a step back, check our ego, and listen for a little bit, a client's going to tell us what they need, and then we can layer in and provide that in a way that speaks to the conversation that we had.
Yeah. Great. And then I've got Max here with the Calgary Stampede. Thanks, Max, for coming. Um, and I'll kind of summarize this. He says, do you have a deal with a season? Do you have a deal with, do you have to deal? Sorry, I gotta wake up this morning. Do you have to deal with seasonality at your property? And yeah, does that, or is it year long typically, or do you deal with any sort of seasonality with sponsors?
I mean, we do in fragments here. So, like, our WNBA season is May to September. So,
Yeah,
there's seasonality there. From an event perspective, we usually have an 8 to 12 week window to market our major events. So, if we have one-off relationships tied to, our annual Sun Wine and Food Fest in January, there's probably uh, at most a quarter long window to activate a one-off
yeah,
sponsor through. As a property, we're lucky enough where it really is always busy here.
yeah,
We say it's either good or great from a turnout perspective here. If it's 80 degrees and sunny in southern New England in the summer, we probably see a little bit of a dip in traffic. But if it rains the next day, we'll see a higher than average crowd come through the door. So, from a broad view perspective, not a ton of seasonality here, but we still operate around it when it comes to some of the smaller properties and events in our scope.
yeah. And he's got a 70% of the sponsors are mostly interested in that summer festival, but they have tons of events that go on throughout the year, right? And so um, Yeah, if there's any advice how to grow those relationships across the year with
Yeah,
the
we do try to annualize as much as we can.
yeah.
One, it allows us to stay in touch with our partners throughout the year, but it allows our partners to stay in touch with our guests throughout the year too. So even if we have a Sun Wine and Food Fest partner that the bulk of their relationship is in a 3 month stretch through the winter, we'll do smaller culinary events like our barbecue fest, like we do a whiskey tasting event, Cinco de Mayo event. We're always trying to roll partners in to those other culinary events. And from a WNBA perspective, they're at a point too where they're trying to stay active in the community and host events throughout the year too. Uh, I think that organically benefits team partners to just be able to check the box year round with that relationship. And it also, again, allows us to open the door to constant conversation and opportunities for growth.
Awesome. All right, we got a couple questions here from Jesse. When working with larger brands, how often these days do you find they are interested in the community or charitable giving aspect? So that's kind of number one on the charitable giving. And then second would be, does that help to get their attention or hook them if you tie in opportunities to their cause marketing for community efforts?
Yeah, 100%. Again, like I said, every relationship we have is different. We have some partners that lean in a lot more on the community side than others. But our goal as a department is always trying to extend relationships beyond our walls and find connections through other departments, other events, other community initiatives that create a buy-in across an organization. It's my belief that like whenever a relationship is siloed, there's just less points of connection to create a buy-in. So we're always trying to be creative, always trying to find ways to tick new boxes with organizations because at the end of the day, as many relationships as I can build within that organization, it's only going to benefit both sides in the long run. We want to be a resource across the board for an organization, not just when they're thinking about, signage or email marketing or social
Yeah,
media. Like we
yeah,
want to be a true partner.
yeah. Awesome. Dean asked this, how do you come up with the value of the partnership? Would you reverse engineer the ROI and hospitality piece to come up with the ballpark number?
Again, it depends on the category. Like a pouring rights relationship, we do have enough data just based on the lifespan of this property to reverse engineer in a way. We just renegotiated our relationship with Coca-Cola in the last couple of years. We brought Pepsi to the table, and we could speak to 25 years of pouring volume and the ebbs and flows of it through COVID and what we expect on the marketing side in order to compete with someone like Coca-Cola. In some other categories, we may not have as much data. So it really depends on the conversation. But at the end of the day, we try to use as much as we can across the industry to create key reference points for the data and the rate card that we build. And again, we try to lean on any agency relationships we have through our advertising team and our marketing team. We try to utilize our WNBA team as much as we can. We try to use our other properties in Pennsylvania and Canada and really try to aggregate all that data and utilize it to ensure that our rates and the proposals we're building are in line with industry standards.
Awesome.
And as you know, Jason, it's always gray. It's never an exact science,
No,
but as the more you can layer on top of it,
it's a lot in
the
the
more,
beholder. It's a lot in the beholder and how
yeah.
they value it for sure.
But
Uh,
at the end of the day, we want to be able to justify our pricing and how we
yeah,
value our brand. So as
100%.
many resources as we can utilize to do that, it's only going to benefit you.
Yeah. Andrew Eastman, he asks, any advice on focusing less on logo visibility and focusing more on enhancing guest experience and activations in third spaces, multi-use venues?
Yeah, again, we have partners that view both as a KPI or view one or the other as a KPI. We have some brands that really just want to see their logo as much as possible across property, especially
Sure.
when they bring a team in to showcase the relationship here.
They're focused
We
on
have
brand.
others.
They're focused on the branding at that point, right? I mean,
Yep.
that's important to them.
We just picked up a good relationship with Chevy in the past year here, and it's completely through an agency that handles their national activations at properties like ours, and that relationship is almost wholly activation driven. They'll bring a team in to activate around a vehicle. They'll collect information from visitors who enter to win a stay here at the property in our hotel, and then they'll measure return on that data. So
Very cool.
incredibly specific
Yeah, that's
strategy
awesome.
for that brand. Where
Yeah,
someone like Yale New Haven Health with us, they service our employees and are our official healthcare provider. So there's every touch point in the book with a brand like that. They want to see their logo in our arena through our WNBA team. They want to activate in the community with us. They want us to provide incredible hospitality to any of their leadership that comes on site. And they want to make sure that they're providing us a level of service when it comes to our WNBA team and the team doctors and the care provided
yeah,
there, and our employees. We have a walk-in health clinic with Yale New Haven Health on site here as well. So they're invested really across the board with us. And there are, I couldn't even count how many boxes to tick with them just to ensure that our partnership is healthy.
and I would say if a brand is talking to you and all they want is um, a logo on a sign, you probably need to ask more questions, right? Because there's usually in every sponsorship there needs to be, multiple pieces, and branding's just a piece of it, right?
Yeah.
Signage has a piece, naming rights is a piece, but there's other elements involved, and driving traffic, driving those actionable marketing pieces, and the community, the media, the business development opportunities. Yeah, there's just so many different ways. And if there's a brand ever that's just wanting logos, that's usually a sign to just keep asking questions about
Yeah.
about other aspects
Or
on
just continue
value.
building the relationship. Like we've had
Yep.
relationships that have started through a local media agency that only purchases out of home advertising for a specific brand. We'll sell them that out of home advertising for a month or 2 months, whatever the flight is they're looking for. But at the end of the day, we want to connect the dots on who is that decision maker behind that out of home agency. How do
Yeah.
we get that decision maker in and discuss a broader relationship? And a lot of times that takes, if not months, years to do that and build trust in the right people and connect the right dots.
Yeah.
But you always want to try to evolve beyond uh, a simple relationship like that and really plant a seed and get your roots in.
Yeah, and I think we have time for one more question here, and then we'll wrap up. Dawn asks, "How do you balance allowing promoters who rent your facility providing exposure for their event sponsors that might compete with your facility sponsors?" That's a big one. That's
Yeah,
a really good
that
question.
is a great question.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially our convention space, but our arena as well. Uh, it's all about just communication and setting proper expectation.
you have a
Our
Coke deal. You have a Coke deal, right? And maybe Pepsi
Yep,
is sponsoring this tour that comes in, right? It's like
yep.
how do you handle that?
And I'll tell you an even more unique one is we host the Connecticut Auto Show in our expo center every year. We have a Tesla dealership on site, and we took some dollars from Tesla to do some displays on our concourse.
Yeah,
Tesla doesn't operate in a dealership model, and the Connecticut Auto Show is run by the Connecticut auto dealers. So we have a Tesla facility on site that doesn't align with their model. They've really disrupted the auto industry, and we host one of the biggest auto events and auto dealership events in the region. And it's really just communicating through it to ensure nobody's going to step on each other's toes. There's enough space for both parties to operate. And it's the same with our pouring rights partners. Anheuser-Busch, our official domestic beer partner, is a partner you'll see all over our arena. We have a country show come in that's sponsored by Coors Light, and we've got to really give them the venue and allow that partnership to shine. At the end of the day, it comes down to our relationship with Anheuser-Busch, and building the trust in them to know that we operate a venue, that we do offer opportunities like that to outside clientele, and it's not going to impact our relationship negatively.
You just put that in
So
your
it
deals
just takes
then?
collaboration.
Do you just put that in your deals then too? That could happen, essentially.
100%. Yeah. Like we try to ensure the language in our agreement speaks to that point. But at the end of the day, it's up to me to set the proper expectation.
You verbally just outline it for them. Yeah. Rather than hiding it in an agreement, it's like, hey, this is.
No, I would recommend to anyone, work with your legal team and make sure each agreement reflects the understanding you've come to as business partners. But you want to be out in front of that as a partner, and really, from a human perspective, just voicing who you are as an organization, how things operate.
Yep. Act with integrity, be honest.
Yep.
Talk about it, have a conversation up front. So I think that's great. Well, thank you, Ryan, for taking time. I like to keep these around 45. Everyone's got busy days, and just appreciate you coming on. And thank you everyone who joined the webinar. We will, as Laura mentioned, we'll be emailing this video out to everybody as well, so you have it at your fingertips if you need it. And we appreciate you guys making time in your day to learn about Mohegan Sun, how they do things. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Thanks to everyone on the call. And feel free, if there's more questions, find me on LinkedIn, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Bye, guys.